Hi, I'm Rob Parker from Nuclear for Climate Australia, and this is the second of a series of videos we're making dealing with the introduction of nuclear energy onto the Australian grid. Today's video, we'll look at where we would build them on a state-by-state basis and some of the issues involved. But I'd like to briefly look at where our current government is taking us. They've basically thrown in the towel on ever achieving ultra-low emissions on the Australian grid. We know that because Chris Bowen and his assistants at AEMO have determined that we're going to get between 14 and 17 gigawatts of gas power. That's up from the existing 11 gigawatts. What that means for Australia is that we can never achieve ultra-low emissions. That was the whole purpose of the energy transition while we have this government in place refusing to give us nuclear energy. So what I'd like to do now is look at what we actually could achieve if we brought in ultra-low carbon nuclear, and we'll look at it on a state-by-state basis in today's video. What we see here is that by 2060 in New South Wales, we would need 6 large nuclear power plants. In Victoria, we would need 5. And in Queensland, we would need 6. While in South Australia, because of its lower population, we would need 0.3 gigawatt units. So that means that by 2060, under our plan, we would have 20 nuclear plants with a total combined output of 25 gigawatts of power. So what are the factors that are affecting their siting? Well, most importantly, in our dry, warm climate, we need to look at cooling. And because of our limited water reserves on the main area of Australia, we need to locate them on coastal locations to take the best advantage of seawater. That's exactly what they do, for example, in South Korea and elsewhere. On those coastal locations, we would have stable rock foundations. And because Australia is really not impacted by earthquakes, the place is seismically very stable. And so even issues like the Newcastle earthquake would never really have any impact on a nuclear power plant. Other factors that we need is close proximity to the grid for an easy connection. And we need to have a reliable local workforce to work on the plants and also operate them at a later date. We need close proximity to transport and ports to import equipment from overseas and locally. So these are the main issues we need to look at for siting of the plants. What type of plant would we build? Well, in this image, we see the South Korean APR 1400. I've been to these in South Korea. As we saw, McKinsey Global report a couple of weeks ago also nominated these as being about the most reliable plant that we could build because they are built on time and on budget, and the South Koreans have an excellent supply chain and a lot of history in being able to construct these. They're a great trading partner. These would be a very good fit for the Australian grid. On a state-by-state basis in Queensland, we've looked at a number of locations. So we can go north of Gladstone, near Rockhampton, for example, along the Fitzroy River. We've got the existing Stanwell Power Station site, or Thompson's Point, or we could go to the northern part of Curtis Island. We could also go down around Gladstone to places like Hummock Hill or Rod Bay, or even at some of the estuaries like Tannum Sands. And we can go further south down to places like on the Mary River near Maryborough and look at locations down there. So all in all, in Queensland, we need about 3 sites with 2 units at each site. Coming down to New South Wales, we have the Central Coast, places like Birdie Beach or Fraser Beach on our right on the coast near Newcastle. Or we come down south of Wollongong, for example, down around the Shoalhaven region, where we've got the existing or the previously nominated site at Jervis Bay. Or we've got places like the Beecroft Peninsula and Kinghorn Point. So there are a number of options south of Sydney. And we've also got existing coal plants, for example, the Eraring plant on the Central Coast, which is already cooled by seawater and has a low population density surrounding it. And we've got the area around Bayswater Liddell inland, which is one of the only inland sites we're looking at, which has got ready access to water from the Hunter River. So that's moving on now. We can go to Victoria. And down around Victoria, we'd put 5 units in there. There are some old sites that were nominated by the State Electricity Commission of Victoria, some to the west of Melbourne, but there are some good locations to the east, which I'm particularly interested in, for example, Giffard on the coast or Powlett River, and we've also got the Latrobe. So probably something like 2 units in the Latrobe and perhaps 3, for example, at Giffard or Powlett River would work quite well. In South Australia, because of the low population, we'd probably look at these 300 megawatt BWRX 300 type units. 4 of these are currently being built at Darlington in Ontario, and we would need 3 of these in South Australia. Locations in South Australia that I've looked at, there's about 6 of them. There could be more. We could go right up the top of the Gulf near the old Northern Power Station site, or we could come down to Pelican Point or Torrens Island. And further south, we could come near the Floria Peninsula, for example, Myoponga, or even further south on the coast to Cape Jaffa. So we've certainly got some good coastal locations in South Australia. But as we see on this slide, nuclear fits very well in coastal locations, particularly this unit, Diablo Canyon in California, where it operates quite harmoniously, as we see with the existing wildlife. People often say that Australia cannot build nuclear on time. But let's look at other comparable nations that have met the demand or the project in a far more aggressive manner than we need to. For example, in France, they built 58 reactors in 22 years. In Ontario, they built 18 in 22 years. And what we need in Australia is 20 units in 30 years. It's eminently doable, and it really is our only solution in Australia to get ultra-low carbon energy at a reasonable cost. Thank you.